Welcome back to the Distressed Princess. I'm Rhonda. In today's video, I am making cute ghosts that you can decorate with this Halloween. A lot of my DIYs today are inspirations from something that I've seen online, like this nice art print from Etsy. I had an idea to take the arch picture frame from Walmart that's only $2 and make this an art piece where the ghost is actually on the frame and not just painted. So I've got some florals that I've picked up. You'll need some small styrofoam balls that you can get at the Dollar Tree or Walmart. And I have some lace from Lone Swag that didn't have a mate. So the first thing I did was take that paper insert out of the picture frame and I colored the whole back side of it with a black marker, or you could use black paint, it doesn't matter, or just stick some black cardstock in there. It doesn't matter as long as you have a black background. And then I took gold rub and buff and went over the whole thing, the glass, the frame, and everything. And at first I started using my fingers like I normally do, but to get into the cracks and crevices, I found it a lot easier to use a paintbrush. Now to make the ghost, you use one of these small styrofoam balls and cut just a little bit off of the back of it so that it will lay flat, and then cut out a circle size piece of lace, and that's going to make your ghost. Then use hot glue to attach the lace to the styrofoam ball. And then I did some fussing around a little bit so that the lace would lay right. And I used some hot glue to help it have the right little pleats where I wanted it to be and just make a cute little ghost. And then once you're happy with how the lace is, then attach it to the picture frame. And it looked like the ghost in the painting had layers. And so I cut another piece of lace and I'm going to layer it on top. I've got this tool that is from the Dollar Tree to help me kind of stick it behind where the styrofoam is. And of course, I'm going to use hot glue to stick it down. Then I made some eyes using some push pins, and I didn't have any black ones. If you already have black ones, that would be perfect. And so I had to paint mine black. And while those were drying, then I got my florals together. Now, the picture had tiny flowers, and I just wanted to use these little sunflowers. I've just loved these little tiny sunflowers and wanted them to go with this lace ghost. So use whatever flowers makes you happy. Some dried flowers would be really pretty as well. The push pins weren't sticking in the styrofoam as well as I had hoped, so I had to use some hot glue to stick them in place. And I also made a little bow to go on her head of the tan gingham check, which you know that I love. And I think she turned out really cute. Let me know what you think in the comments. The next thing I was inspired by were these candlestick ghosts. Now I have some brass candlesticks. They're in rough condition, but I thought it would be cuter to use lace instead of a hanky that was used in this project. So I'm cutting out my lace, and you can see I just eyeball it. I don't care if it's a perfect circle. Nothing has to be perfect on my channel. So just do the best you can cutting out a circle. Don't be too fussy about it. And plop one of those styrofoam balls into the middle of your candlestick. Now you won't even have to glue it or attach it. You can totally use your candlesticks for something else later because you're just going to tie the lace on there using some black yarn. I have this black cord that I've had, and for whatever reason I decided these ghosts didn't need eyes, but you could put eyes if you wanted. The next one is another Etsy inspiration, but I felt like that ghost got lost in all the white. So I am taking a Dollar Tree white canvas and I'm covering it with this fabric that I got at Walmart. And I'm just using a stapler to staple it to the canvas and wrap it up Christmas present style and trim off the excess. The cheesecloth I got from Walmart, you get 2 pieces in the package, and this goes really easy. I was shocked. I had no idea how I was going to make this ghost, but right here you're going to see it in real time. I unrolled that cheesecloth a few times, and I just doubled it up and then laid it down in a blob, just like you're seeing here. And it just kind of made its own ghost shape. I kind of brought out some arms that you see that I'm doing here, and it's looking good, I thought. So I pretty much just cut that off and worked with it. When I was happy with the shape of my ghost, then I sprayed it heavily with this spray starch. And I dried it up with my hair dryer, and when it gets dry, then it should be pretty stiff so that you can glue it down to your canvas without losing your ghost shape. The ghost on Etsy was carrying some baby's breath flowers, and they had a big giant white bow, and I loved that. I made mine out of a strip of flower sack cloth that I had, made that giant bow and cut the tails. And I gave my ghost some bigger felt eyes. I thought that it needed bigger eyes than what the original had. Now, instead of baby's breath, I got this rice stem from Walmart, and it was around $5, but look how much of it you get. You can do so many crafts with this. Just stick it in with all your fall decorations, and I think it would be really cute. So I made a little bouquet for my ghost to carry with a few stems of the rice stem. I wrapped it up in jute string so that it would be like a bundle that he's carrying, and cut off the excess and glued the cute bow on. Now, if you were going for the Etsy look, you could stop here, but I wanted to take it farther. Look how cute it is if it's framed. I loved this color frame with it too, but it was going to be really hard to take that frame apart and use it. So I am doing another trick by using another canvas from the Dollar Tree. You need to remove the staples, take the canvas off because of course you're not using it. Save that canvas for later though. You might DIY with it in another project. So I'm taking the frame and I'm hot gluing it on top of this one. So now you could do a reverse canvas thing. If I would have known it was going to go this way, I probably would have done that and not used 2 frames, but this makes it chunky and cute anyway. And you also could make this something that could hang on the wall. You could put a hanger on the back, but I chose to leave mine just to be a shelf sitter. Then I went another step. I thought it would be really interesting to use this cute mini candle lantern from the Dollar Tree, but I just made it look like he was carrying the lantern by taking some of that black cord that I have and making a loop, tying it, well, not really tying it around his hand. I made his hand kind of fold over with the hot glue to look like he's holding it, and I hot glued the twine to just look like it was looped around his hand. And I put some hot glue on the bottom of the lantern so that it can sit on the inside of the frame and have some support. Next up is what I'm calling a pocket ghost. It's inspired by this beauty blender caddy thing, storage little thing that I saw at the Dollar Tree, and I thought it would be really cute to put a ghost inside of there. But I didn't want the bottom to be purple, so I was going to paint it, and I was hopefully going to remove this plastic piece without breaking it. and that was tricky. I just had to give it a really hard pull, and I think I did snap something. I heard something snap, but it still works. It functions. I can't find what broke, if anything. But anyway, be careful when you're removing that. Paint it whatever color you want. You don't have to paint yours. It was just for me to match my decor. Now I'm using a piece of flour sackcloth, again, cutting a circle, not measuring or anything, and look what I do with the scraps. Wadded it up to make the ghost shape head. I mean, I truly use just whatever I have. Just, hey, that'll work. I grabbed it up and it works. But if I didn't have that just handy, I probably would have used some tissue. So now I'm hot gluing the little balled up fabric or your tissue, whatever you're using, hot glue it and start forming your ghost, making your little pleats in the material, hot gluing where necessary. And at first I just used a Sharpie paint pen for dots for the eyes, but I changed that later. Now there's a little piece at the top of this, I don't know what to call this dome, that allows the door to open and close. And that's what you're going to hot glue your ghost to. You have to be really careful though, not to get hot glue in the mechanism so that the door can still open and close. And I also, for extra support, put some hot glue on the one side where the door doesn't move so that he is stuck in there. Then I wanted there to be a pretty floor, so I am using whatever I could find to make a nice circle shape because I was just going to have to guess about what size the floor would be, but I needed somewhere to start. So I used this, traced around it, and made a circle, and then I kept trimming it down until it was just the right size to go down for the floor. Then I changed my mind about the color again. And so I wanted this to be all gold. So I got out my gold rub and buff and it went on this so nicely. It really turned this little plastic toy into something really special, I think. And so then that's what made me want to give it better eyes. I thought its eyes needed to be better than something just painted on. So this time I got out my straight pins that have a smaller head and I picked out 2 of the black ones. And I thought that if I cut them down, they could just push into the ghost, but I had too much hot glue in there for them to go through. What I wound up having to do was completely cut the black little dot head off of the straight pin and leave no pin at all, and use this tacky glue to glue them on. And this one's inspired by a Kirkland's decoration. I loved the ghost in this painting, and so to start out with the oval shape that I wanted, I couldn't find an oval frame in a thrift store that would be perfect, so I had to improvise. I picked up this oval serving tray from the Dollar Tree and I cut out the edge. But that tray is pretty flimsy. I wanted it to have a stronger back, so I needed some cardboard. I'm sacrificing my nail polish box because it's broken. It came from the Dollar General store, and I do love these boxes, but it's done its job. Now it's time to get a new tote for the nail polishes, and now I'm using the top of this to be my back. And it is pretty, if you do this yourself, this is pretty strong box top. So get a heavy duty utility knife to cut it with. And then I used a sanding block to tidy up the edges. Then I used a whole bunch of hot glue and glued the oval mirror tray thing back onto this cardboard. Now we have a nice sturdy piece. Then I painted the whole thing with black chalk paint. I did 2 coats. Then I had my computer set up in front of me to look at as I painted on the ghost. And it's a really simple design. I'm sure that you can paint this too. The most difficult part, I guess, was the bow. The shape of the bow isn't hard to get, it's just the bats, and you could do polka dots instead, but I chose to try to paint the bats. Mine aren't the best, but they're cute. And then I chose to do some florals instead of making a frame. You could do cardboard, you could do all kinds of things to try to make a frame, or try to make a frame just like the ones at Kirkland's, but I thought this would be more fun. And so then I did a trim with this crochet ribbon that you get at the Dollar Tree, and I think it matches my other ghost that I made. And so this crochet really brought it together for me. I touched up some places in my black chalk paint that got a little scratched up with the florals. And then this was the icing on the cake. I got these brass file folder tag things thrifted somewhere, and I love to use them whenever I can. They don't have a backing, so I'm making a backing out of this brown card set that I got at the Dollar Tree, hot gluing it so that I really am doing this so that I have something more than just those edges to hot glue to my picture. Well, my portrait. I'm calling it my ghost portrait. So see, here now I have something to hot glue this to. In the card, I'm going to stamp the word boo. And if you'll notice closely, I didn't really even use two O's. One of them's a Q. I taped off the tail, and I made sure no ink got on the tail of the Q. So I have boo. And I painted the back brown mixed with some black so that it had kind of a wooden effect to it. And I made a hanger with my favorite tan gingham check ribbon. I hot glued it on there, and then I also used some of that kind of heavier duty card, it's not cardboard, it's like brown cardstock, and hot glued that over the top, and I think she turned out adorable. The last DIY is more of a hack, and I think I showed you this last year maybe, but it's using some canisters. These I thrifted. I think that they were originally sold at the Dollar General store, or maybe the Family Dollar. So my canisters were kind of dirty, so I'm using my dish rag to clean them up a little bit. And as I was wiping these down, I was smelling what was on the dish rag before, which I cleaned the counter with, my Mrs. Meyer's fall scented multi-purpose cleaner. And I thought, I'm stop right now. I'm going to grab this out and show you guys, because you spray this stuff and you clean your counters or whatever, you still smell it 2 days later. It smells fantastic. Now when you have clean canisters to work with, you roll it over to the blank side, and you can use your dry erase marker to draw your ghost face. And don't worry, it's not permanent because it's a dry erase marker. If you hate what you drew, you can just use rubbing alcohol and a paper towel and use it as an eraser. Thanks so much for spending this morning with me. I hope you enjoyed my little ghosty creations. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you right back here next Saturday. Bye.